My wife, Lisa, had been deeply immersed in a significant project for nearly 5 months. It was not something she was doing just for herself. She was the one leading it, and the entire project's success rested on her shoulders. This project was crucial for her company, Westbridge Innovations. The past 5 months had been especially tough on her due to the intense demands. It was not just vital for her. The entire company was depending on it. If this project did not succeed, Westbridge Innovations could be in serious trouble. Lisa earned her bachelor's degree from Monroe College and an MBA from Barton School of Business. She was easily the sharpest person in our family. I, on the other hand, started working as a mechanic straight out of high school, and after 23 years, I am still turning wrenches. It never bothered me. I liked the work, and the pay was decent. It allowed us to cover Lisa's college expenses and raise our 3 kids comfortably. We did not live extravagantly, but we were getting by just fine. Our kids had all moved out, and financially, we were stable. Lisa got pregnant 4 months after we tied the knot when she was 19. In the early years, we lived with my parents, who had a large, mostly empty house since my 3 siblings had left home. This arrangement worked well because we had built-in babysitters while Lisa completed her initial college years. 2 pregnancies stretched her 4-year degree into nearly 7 years, but she pushed through and made it happen. I always had a steady job and could count on extra hours if we needed the money. After Lisa graduated from Barton, we rented our own place. She received job offers from several major firms, but they all required us to move, and Lisa wanted to stay close to her roots. That is why she chose to work at Westbridge Innovations. The job paid well and, more importantly, gave her significant responsibility and a clear path to climb the corporate ladder. Lisa was dedicated and hardworking, and she thrived in her role. Her big presentation was scheduled for Thursday at the Mayfield Hotel in downtown Rosewood. I decided to take a few days off to support her in any way I could, though in the end, all I managed to do was make her a meal when she got home. I did not know much about her work, nor did I have much interest in it. High-level corporate stuff just was not my thing. Business people from Europe, Asia, and South America were flying in for this event. The company covered their travel expenses and put them up at the Mayfield Hotel. It was a costly affair, and from what Lisa hinted, the company might have been stretching its budget a bit thin. Her presentation was critical, not just for her, but for the company and the 250 employees counting on its success. Everything seemed fine until Tuesday evening. Lisa came home in a new outfit, a slate gray suit with a crisp white blouse. She meticulously laid everything out on the bed in the guest room, preparing for the upcoming days. While she was generally organized at home, she was especially meticulous when it came to work. I did not see why she needed her fancy underwear, but I kept my thoughts to myself. Besides her suit for the presentation, she had packed several cocktail dresses for the social events planned around the presentation. I usually steered clear of these kinds of events, but felt like I should go with her if she wanted me to. She thanked me for the offer, but assured me it was not necessary. All the materials and equipment she needed were already packed in the trunk of her sedan. She drove herself to ensure everything was in perfect order. Lisa had the entire day on Wednesday to prepare and the evening to socialize with the guests. She was so competent at what she did that I felt I should just stay out of her way. Once everything was ready, she checked and double-checked her work. All she needed now was a hot shower and a good night's sleep. My mistake was letting my curiosity get the better of me. While she was showering, I thought I was helping by organizing her things on the bed, but it turned out I was not. While moving items around, a small white envelope slipped out of the side pocket of her makeup bag. It was from a pharmacy we did not usually go to. Inside were 10 pills I did not recognize with the name Norris, and the instructions were puzzling. If necessary, take 1 pill and then a second pill 12 hours later. I assumed it might be something for anxiety or nerves, but the instructions did not make much sense. The prescription had been filled in her name just the day before. I quickly put the envelope back as she finished her shower. I decided to look up Norris before asking her about it. Of course, bringing it up would mean admitting I had gone through her things, which was a dilemma I was not keen on facing. While Lisa got ready for bed, I went to our home computer and searched for Norris. 10 minutes later, I joined her under the covers, but sleep would not come. I lay there wide awake, wondering why my wife needed a prescription that she had never mentioned. My mind raced with possibilities, none of them comforting. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was just something minor, and she had forgotten to mention it. But deep down, I felt a gnawing sense of unease. The next day, Lisa left early for her final preparations at the hotel. I spent most of the day trying to distract myself, but I could not shake the feeling that something was off. That evening, I decided to surprise her at the hotel, thinking I could catch a glimpse of her presentation setup and maybe take her out for dinner afterward. When I arrived, I saw Lisa in the hotel lobby, laughing with a man I did not recognize. They were standing a little too close, their conversation just a bit too familiar. I approached them, and Lisa's expression shifted from surprise to something I could not quite read. She introduced the man as Mark, a colleague who had flown in from Chicago. Mark offered his hand, but something about his demeanor made my skin crawl. I tried to play it cool, but my mind was racing. As Lisa and I walked away, I asked her about Mark. She brushed it off, saying he was just an old friend from business school who happened to be in town for the presentation. That night, back at home, I could not shake the image of Lisa and Mark together. I felt like I was on the verge of discovering something terrible, but I did not want to jump to conclusions. I decided to confront Lisa about the prescription, the pills, and Mark. She denied everything, insisting the pills were for occasional migraines and that Mark was just a friend. But her explanations felt thin, and I could not help but feel like the ground was shifting beneath me. My revenge on my cheating wife was supposed to be straightforward, but I had a sinking feeling that things were about to take an unforeseen turn. The next morning, I woke up still uneasy. Lisa seemed calm and collected, moving about the house as if nothing was wrong. But I could not shake the feeling that she was hiding something. I decided to do some digging of my own. While she was busy in the kitchen, I quietly slipped into our home office and began searching through her drawers, her briefcase, and her files. My hands trembled as I sifted through her things, half expecting to find something that would finally confirm my suspicions. After a few minutes, I found a folder labeled Private. Inside were receipts from a luxury boutique I had never heard of and reservations for dinners at upscale restaurants that I knew we had never visited together. The dates lined up with times she had claimed to be working late or traveling for business. My heart pounded as I pieced it all together. Lisa was not just busy with work. She had been out living a double life. I waited until Lisa was out of the house before calling the restaurant where one of the reservations had been made. I pretended to be confirming details from a past visit and asked if they could provide any information on the reservation under Lisa's name. The hostess hesitated, but eventually confirmed that the reservation was for two. My suspicions were no longer just gut feelings. They were cold, hard facts. When Lisa returned home that evening, I could barely look at her. She asked if everything was all right, noticing my distracted demeanor, but I just nodded. I needed more proof before confronting her. That night, I resolved to follow her the next day. If she was cheating, I needed to see it for myself. Lisa left the house early in her usual routine, but this time, instead of heading to the garage to work, I waited a few minutes and then followed her. My heart raced as I tailed her car, making sure to keep a safe distance. She drove to the office, which initially calmed my nerves, but then, about an hour later, she left with Mark, the same guy I had seen her with at the hotel. They went to a nearby cafe and sat outside, laughing and talking like old friends. I watched from a distance, feeling my anger and betrayal boil over. They seemed too close, too comfortable. It was not just a friendly lunch. There was a deeper connection, and I could feel it. After the cafe, they did not return to the office. Instead, they drove to a hotel across town, the Silverstone Inn, a place that screamed discretion. They went inside together, and I knew then that this was not something I could ignore. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel, my mind swirling with 1,000 thoughts. How could she do this to me? To us? I waited for what felt like an eternity, but when they finally emerged hours later, any hope I had of this being a misunderstanding vanished. My wife was cheating on me, and the reality hit me like a freight train. This was not just a work fling. It was a full-blown affair. That evening, I could barely contain my anger. I confronted Lisa as soon as she walked through the door. I told her I knew about the hotel, about Mark, and that I had been following her. Her face went pale, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of fear in her eyes. But then she switched gears, launching into a series of excuses and denials. She claimed it was all a misunderstanding, that Mark was just a friend, and that the hotel was just a place to discuss business away from the office. But her words felt hollow. I had seen enough, and there was no talking her way out of this. I told her I wanted a divorce. For the first time, Lisa seemed truly shaken. She pleaded with me to reconsider, to give her a chance to explain, but I had heard enough lies. I was done. As I started the process of moving out, packing my things and making arrangements to stay with a friend, Lisa became desperate. She confessed that things with Mark had been more serious than she let on, but she swore it was over now. She begged me to stay, to give her a chance to make things right. She claimed she was under a lot of pressure from work, that the affair was a mistake and a way to cope. I could see the tears in her eyes, but I was numb. I told her it was too late. That was when she dropped a bombshell. She was pregnant. I stood there, stunned, as she explained that she had just found out and had been waiting for the right moment to tell me. The room spun, and I could barely process what she was saying. Was it mine, or was it Mark's? Lisa swore up and down that the baby was mine, but trust was long gone. I did not know what to believe anymore. I told her we would get a paternity test once the baby was born, but until then, I could not stick around. I moved in with my buddy Matt, who let me crash on his couch while I sorted things out. Meanwhile, Lisa kept calling, texting, and trying to meet up. She claimed she was going to therapy, that she was trying to make things right, but I could not bring myself to care. I felt like I was living in a nightmare that I could not wake up from. Months passed, and finally, the day came for the paternity test. Lisa gave birth to a baby boy, and we arranged for the test immediately. Those few days waiting for the results were the longest of my life. I replayed every argument, every betrayal, and every lie in my head. When the results finally came in, I felt my heart sink. There was only a 50% chance the baby was mine. It could go either way. The moment of truth arrived, and the test confirmed what I feared most. Mark was the father. I was devastated. Lisa cried, swearing she did not know and that she still wanted me in her life, but it was too much. This was not just about an affair anymore. It was about a child, a family torn apart by lies. I finalized the divorce and cut all ties with Lisa. It was the hardest thing I ever had to do, but I knew I could not stay in that toxic situation. I focused on my work, my friends, and slowly began to rebuild my life. I started seeing a therapist, trying to make sense of everything and move on from the betrayal. It was not easy, but with time, I started to heal. Months later, I received a letter from Lisa. She apologized for everything and admitted that she had been lost, caught up in the stress of her career and personal failures. She did not ask for forgiveness, just understanding. I did not know how to respond, so I did not. But in a way, her letter helped me find some closure. I realized that her actions were about her, not me. I deserved better, and I was determined to find it. I eventually met someone new, Rachel, a woman with a kind heart and an honest smile. We took things slow, and I was upfront about my past. She understood, and we built a relationship based on trust and respect, everything I had been missing with Lisa. It was not easy to let go of the hurt, but with Rachel, I felt like I had a second chance. Looking back, I realized that my revenge on Lisa was not about hurting her, but about reclaiming my own sense of self-worth. The unforeseen turn was not just about discovering her affair, but about rediscovering my strength and the courage to start over. Life threw me a curveball, but I came out the other side stronger and more resilient. To anyone going through something similar, I would say this: trust your instincts. Do not let someone else's actions define you or your worth. If you find yourself in a situation where you are not being valued or respected, have the courage to walk away. It is not easy, but sometimes the hardest decisions are the most necessary. My story with Lisa was full of unexpected twists and heartache, but it did not break me. I learned that no matter how much someone else tries to take from you, they cannot take away your ability to rebuild. I am now in a better place, surrounded by people who truly care for me, and I am finally at peace with how things turned out. The chapter with Lisa is closed, and I am ready for whatever comes next.